Have you ever imagined having so much power that presidents trembled at your name? Picture a man whose wealth was so vast, entire nations were impacted by his decisions, yet who was born into absolute poverty. What kind of secrets, betrayals, and ruthless tactics lie behind history's greatest fortune? How did John D. Rockefeller, the world's first billionaire, rise from utter poverty to build an empire so massive it controlled almost the entire oil industry? And why did America both admire and despise him? Born in 1839, John Davison Rockefeller entered life in Richford, New York, a tiny village of fewer than 1,000 people. From the start, Rockefeller's world was filled with instability. His father, William Devil Bill Rockefeller, was not only an absent figure, but a professional con artist who would vanish for months, leaving the family struggling in poverty, only to return unpredictably with lavish gifts bought from his scams. Imagine being raised amid this chaotic mix of deprivation and occasional luxury. How would it shape your view of money and morality? John's mother, Eliza, instilled in him a sense of religious devotion and discipline, teaching him the value of work and frugality. By age 10, young John was already helping to support his family, showing early entrepreneurial instincts by raising turkeys and selling them for profit. Ask yourself, what drives a child so young to take on such responsibilities? At just 16 years old, John faced repeated rejection, humiliated for being too young and inexperienced. But his relentless persistence eventually earned him a position as a bookkeeper at Hewitt & Tuttle. He valued this day, September 26th, as Job Day, even more significant than his birthday. What passion and hunger must someone have to elevate employment to such an important milestone? Rockefeller soon partnered with Morris Clark, entering the produce business and later venturing into oil refining. Initially, refining crude oil into kerosene was considered just a side project, but it quickly became lucrative. As the oil refining side expanded rapidly, tensions rose between Rockefeller and Clark. When oil markets plunged into instability, Maurice chose security, selling his shares. But Rockefeller boldly doubled down, purchasing Clark's stake. Would you have had the courage to take such an enormous risk? Rockefeller's Standard Oil, established in 1870, quickly dominated the industry, not merely through innovation, but through calculated ruthlessness. He secured secret railroad rebates, ensuring his competitors paid higher prices. These covert dealings, kept hidden from public view, allowed Standard Oil to crush rivals methodically. What lines would you cross to achieve dominance? In a brutal maneuver known as the Cleveland Massacre, Rockefeller bought out 22 of 26 competitors in just weeks, often at fractions of their value, exploiting their fear of ruin. Competitors had two choices: join Standard Oil or leave the industry forever. Imagine being cornered into such an impossible decision. How would you respond? Rockefeller's aggressive tactics ignited intense rivalries, especially with Tom Scott of the powerful Pennsylvania Railroad. This rivalry became so heated that it indirectly led to widespread violence, strikes, and the eventual downfall of Scott himself. How does a rivalry between businesses escalate to national chaos and personal ruin? Following Tom Scott's demise, Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate and Scott's protege, swore vengeance against Rockefeller. This sparked one of history's greatest business rivalries, oil versus steel. Their battles reshaped the American economy and society. Who truly had the upper hand? Rockefeller's monopoly or Carnegie's steel empire? At the height of his power, investigative journalist Ida Tarbell exposed the dark side of Rockefeller's empire, detailing bribery, espionage, and coercion. Tarbell's expose shocked America, turning public sentiment fiercely against Rockefeller. Imagine building your legacy only to see it dismantled in front of the entire nation. Would you fight back or retreat into silence? President Theodore Roosevelt, responding to public outcry, launched an unprecedented lawsuit against Standard Oil. The company was declared a monopoly and forcibly dismantled into 34 separate entities. However, here's the astonishing twist. Breaking Standard Oil apart actually multiplied Rockefeller's wealth significantly. Could the government's punishment paradoxically become your greatest reward? In retirement, Rockefeller shifted focus entirely to philanthropy, giving away unprecedented sums of money to education, medicine, and public welfare. Critics argued this was merely an attempt to salvage his tainted reputation, but supporters saw genuine generosity. Does immense wealth and generosity redeem past misdeeds, or is it merely another business tactic? John D. Rockefeller passed away at the age of 97, leaving behind not just a fortune, but a legacy shrouded in conflict. What you've just watched is only a glimpse into the life of John D. Rockefeller, because his story doesn't end with Standard Oil. It doesn't end in courtrooms or with philanthropy. The truth is, this was just one battle, and the war was still ahead. In the next episode, we dive into one of the greatest business rivalries in history: Standard Oil versus Carnegie Steel, Rockefeller versus Carnegie. Two self-made giants. One controlled oil, the lifeblood of industry. The other forged steel, the backbone of America. They were both men of power, but they had very different visions of what power was for. What turned them from pioneers into enemies? How did ego, strategy, and ambition pull them into a collision course? And in the battle between oil and steel, who really won and who paid the price? This isn't just business history. This is the story of how modern power was born. So if you found this journey fascinating, don't stop here. You're watching the Rockefeller series, and this is just the beginning. Next episode, Oil versus Steel, the business war that shaped a nation. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us as we uncover the rivalries, the risks, and the raw ambition that built the world you live in today.